Welcome back, beautiful people, to a pocket full of sunshine. If you're joining me for the first time, my name is Kendrika, and I'm so grateful that you're here. This podcast is a space for honest conversations, real conversations about healing, faith, confidence, purpose, self discovery, learning how to trust yourself again, learning how to forgive yourself. I mean, so many things. Not because any of us have life completely figured out, but because there's something powerful that happens when we decide to walk through this life with realness, bravery, honesty, instead of perfection. Let's connect. Now, before we begin, I'd like to place a little something in your pocket. I like to call it ShonShine. So here's today's ShonShine. When you heal yourself, you heal the world around you. I'll say that again. When you heal yourself, you heal the world around you, your world. I'm going to let that marinate a little bit. It's been a while since I've sat down to record a traditional podcast episode. Over the past several months, I've been sharing some reflections, little pieces of my heart, moments of inspiration, and lessons that I've been learning along the way. But recently I felt something call me back to this microphone. I felt God call me back to this microphone. And it was a different type of ease this time, y'all. It was different. It was more enthusiasm. It was more of like an innocent hope. It was more of me saying hello to the microphone instead of feeling inferior or defeated by it already before I even began speaking. It's like a joy that comes when I come to this microphone now. And it's such a wonderful feeling that I get to share with you. And I decided to share some things with you, not because I finally have all the answers, not because I've reached some specific destination. It's because I realized that some of these most meaningful conversations, and I love to have conversations, and they happen when we're still becoming. And maybe that's where some of you are too. And I was thinking about something that I heard yesterday. And I said this to myself, and I realized it. I said, experience cannot be measured. You cannot measure experience. When I go back to a certain year in my life where I knew that there was like a big shift that had happened, I didn't know all of the things that I was going to learn in that time, or the experiences that were going to come along the way, or some of the things that I had to shift and heal from and grow apart from. I just knew that there was no box that could fit into that because I could no longer fit in a box. After doing that for so long, I knew that I could no longer be that person limiting myself over and over again. So I had to get out of that box. So I'll ask you, what does this season of life look like? What have you been learning? And why did it feel like it was the right time to return back to yourself? Why did it feel like it was the right time to even heal yourself? As I sat with those questions myself, I also sat with this next season and what it should be about. And one phrase just kept returning to me. And that phrase was returning to yourself. Not reinventing yourself, not fixing. And we're definitely not in this space of proving ourselves. No. Return to yourself. And when I say that, I mean that the return is to the highest version of yourself. That person that is with ease, that person that has peace, that person that has creativity in life and confidence. Even if you haven't seen that person in a long time, or if you feel like you haven't ever seen that person. And when I said it in my mind, I was thinking about that phrase that guy says on TikTok. You're thinking small. You gotta think big. You gotta think big. Because when people think that you're saying you return it to yourself, you're thinking that you're returning to a version of you that you know. Absolutely not. You're returning home. What does home sound like, feel like? Not that home that you thought or that you were used to, but that home that you desire to create. What does that home look like and feel like for you? You know, because somewhere along the way, like many of us learned how to measure our worth by how productive we were, how available we were, how successful we looked, how much we had, how much we could carry, how strong we were, all of that. How well we can make everybody else comfortable. And in doing that, moment by moment, experience by experience, we drifted away from ourselves. Let this season be an invitation to come home to you. Now, I want to say this to you. When we're talking about these episodes, I know that on the first one, I talked about some things that we were going to explore, but I want to go a little bit deeper to talk about some of the things that we're going to talk about over the next several episodes. That we're going to explore some conversations that I know many of us have longed to have. Like, man, you just be wanting to have like some real conversations. Oh, if you hear this, these are my beads. My beads on my hair. Yeah, you just want to be able to have some real in-depth conversations where it's no performing. It's no way of you being in that space of people pleasing. Like what happens when we spend so much time trying not to disappoint others that we begin disappointing ourselves. That's in reference to people pleasing. There have been many moments in my life where I can remember the moments where I was completely leaving myself mute, checking on others and just wanting to make sure that they were happy when I knew that I was settling or just knew that I was not in the space of doing what was best for me. People pleasing was a serious dis-ease that I am so grateful that I healed myself from. It's worse than self-sabotage. It is something that you would think that you are programmed to do, and sometimes you are. Sometimes you are. You know, you try not to hurt other people's feelings, and yet you are taking the sword every time. And it's a sword that people can't really see. It's like something that you just hold until you get home. And you finally take that deep breath like, whew, that hurt. And it's okay that it hurt. And it's not okay. It ain't. And even when it comes to something else that we're going to talk about, like anxiety and intuition, how do we know whether that voice we're hearing is fear? How do we know that it's God? How do we know that it's wisdom? How do we know that it's insecurity? How have we learned how to, distinctly hear our voice clearly? What does it look like to quiet the noise long enough to hear ourselves again? And when I think about that, I ask myself, have we ever learned how to handle change? Like, I know for me, being a woman, being a Black woman, and being a woman that somewhat grew up in survival, we knew how to handle survival. We knew how to handle a level of change. But when it came to like elevation and ensuring that the change was for the good and maintaining that change, sometimes it got a little rocky. And there was one moment I'll share with you where I knew that change was necessary, and that was when I decided to become an entrepreneur. Now, I'm not knocking anyone who works a 9 to 5. I'm not knocking anybody who has decided to have a fulfilling career in that sense. What I've learned along the way is that it's completely different from having your own business and, again, being an entrepreneur. The spiritual side of it all happens before you decide to quit that job, before you decide to turn in that 2-week notice. And what happened for me when I was working in a career that I did not enjoy, and I think I shared this before on one of my episodes. I'll share it again, but I knew that I was dissatisfied. I knew that I could not help people in the way that I authentically just wanted to. And I really prayed about it. I mean, I wrote a book. I prayed and I wrote in a book for like, I think 3 or 4 months straight about what decision I decided to make and how I'm going to shift and what I really desire to do, how I really desire to be, how I really desire to have the type of life that I want. And I completed that book like every day I wrote when I was at work. And I completed that book, and by the time those months were up, I believe it was 3 months, I had processed putting in my 2 weeks notice. And I remember one of my supervisors at the time, they told me that I would be back, and I knew that I would not be. Oh, I knew that I would not be. They did not know. But that was actually inspiration for me to know that I would never go back to something such as that, because it was a career, but it wasn't mine. It was something that I chose because someone else asked me to choose it. So becoming an entrepreneur, which was something that I didn't know was beyond a side hustle. It's beyond just getting money because you so-called need money. It's beyond, yeah, I know how to do it. So yeah, you can call me, or you can tell them to call me. Yeah, I'm free. Like being a last resort type of person. I desired to be more. And there was no one around me that I could learn that from. So I had to become my first teacher. So, with becoming your first teacher, that comes with you learning a lot of things for the first time and doing a lot of things for the first time. And with, I was laughing at myself because there's a run on with that. Like with learning how to do things for the first time, you got to be okay with knowing that sometimes this is like an embryonic thing. There are going to be a few hurdles. There are going to be a few times where things are not perfect, where, it's not always how you think it's supposed to be when you begin. I had to learn how to give myself a lot of grace with this change that I was seeking and that I decided on. See, when you decide change, you got to also know that it won't be as easy as you think it can be in your mind. It doesn't mean that it's not worth it. It just means that there's more that you're learning as these challenges come along the way. And you don't have to feel bad about it. So I had to learn how to not feel bad about it. I had to learn that it's okay that I'm learning how to do this. I'm learning how to go here. I'm learning how to go there. And I would learn how to speak more gently to myself. I would learn how to encourage myself more. So God was really helping me to do that inside outside work first before I decided to, act in that change. I was spiritually becoming it before I was acting in it. And it was such a big thing, and I didn't even know it was that big at the time, that I was really making those moves at the time. I had to get through moments of, when I had friends or people in my life where I was changing things up. Like, okay, now I know how to get in the groove of this. Now I need to learn how to do this in this way. And you have to learn how to, take criticism. You have to be okay with no's. At that time, so I was a little bit more sensitive. I even had people in my life that I was, close to, and they were telling me that they weren't going to do what I desired for them to do when it came to my business that I was curating. I'm like, man, okay, so I need to decide how I am going to be about this change, because there's certain things that can't happen when I'm deciding to run my business. So that was just a lie, was what I'm saying. And that's the thing about this life. You're changing, and you're also having to acknowledge that you are healing yourself. I was learning how to heal myself, and I didn't even know that I was. I was healing parts of me. So again, when you heal yourself, you can heal the world around you. And I'll get to that part when I'm talking about the world around you, because success isn't about constantly chasing like that next milestone. What if it's about building a life that actually feels aligned with who you are? Because again, I didn't want to be that entrepreneur that was just a side hustle person, a last resort person, or she knows how to do this type of person. I wanted the life that gave me peace. So I needed to know what peace meant for me. And for the first time, I was able to redefine that, because I didn't think about that word when I was in my 20s as much, until I moved in on my, had my own home and deciding to become an entrepreneur. How do I desire to have peace? So I had already had like a year or so of developing peace in my home. Now I'm getting into the area of developing peace with a clientele, of people trusting me, people coming into my home and trusting my growth, where I'm at, instead of where they want me to be. And I'll be real with you by saying that when I began me being an entrepreneur, I was a hairstylist, and I was not as good as I desired to be real. And I remember I had a client, and she had me do her daughter's hair, braids for her daughter. I don't remember how we became connected, but there were in the beginning, she told me, she was like, I'm sticking with you. I trust where you're going. I trust your growth. And I appreciated that, because being behind that chair, girl, you might be sweating, you're thinking so many things and, just in that space of just wondering if you are good enough, if they're gonna like it. Will they come back? Will they share it with somebody else? Because I really think most times hairstylists don't get enough credit because you're beyond someone who's just making a style look right. You can also be like a therapist. You can also be a sister who a type of sister that they don't have. You can be a person that made them laugh for the first time that day. And I've had many experiences like that over the years of when I was a hairstylist. And that goes into my point of healing the world around you. So I would not have been able to do those things, bring that peace into other people, into those clients, unless I brought that peace into me. Because they definitely gave me moments where I needed to be uh, healed, or I needed to share a reflection with someone that I didn't even know I was ready to face or even talk about freely. And not only that they helped me with that, I was able to help them with something. So that showed me that I was able to heal the world around me that I was curating at that time. And that goes, man, this goes right into where we're talking about faith, because you cannot have anything without faith. Not only faith in God, the faith in you, the faith like the God within you. It's like having the courage to trust what God has already placed in you. Like it was already in there, but because of all of these experiences, it kind of like has been buried. And so now you're in this space where I was in that space where I stopped outsourcing my worth. I stopped when I chose to change the careers. I stopped outsourcing my worth. I stopped seeking validation. I stopped listening to other people telling me to wait or, do it like this, don't do it like that. And they're not even doing what I'm doing. I had to stop outsourcing my faith and stop waiting for permission. And I had to remember that wisdom doesn't always arrive from the outside. It doesn't. Sometimes it's been patiently waiting for you on the inside the whole time, just sitting there. Like, do, 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 do. When are they going to pick this up? And you're wondering, like, where it's at. They're like, waiting on you. you know? So that's just a little bit, that I just wanted to share with you. And I don't want this to be a podcast just to give you more information. There's enough information already out there. And I think I've said this on the previous episode too, but I'll just reiterate, which is all right to do. My desire is that every episode gives you space to think, space to breathe, and space to question yourself. Ask yourself to reflect with yourself. Even space to heal too. Space to remember. Because healing isn't always about adding something new. Sometimes it's about gently releasing those things that were never yours to carry in the first place. So, wherever you're listening today, wherever you are, whether you're driving, whether you're taking a walk, whether you're cleaning your home, whether you're sitting quietly on your patio drinking a cup of tea, listening to some birds chirp, chirp, or you're simply just trying to make sense of where this life has brought you to this very moment right now. I want to thank you for letting me walk beside you for a little while. My desire is that these conversations don't tell you who to become. I just hope that they help you remember who you already are. You know? Now, before we go, I'd like to leave you with a question. What parts of yourself have you been desiring to become? When maybe you're being invited to begin by remembering, by doing those things, not trying to. You know, you hear someone say, like, I'm trying to. Are you giving yourself enough credit? Because you're actually doing something. You're doing it. You're just not, it's the way that you're measuring your effort. Again, to the things that I said earlier about that this experience can't be measured, because it's nothing like that moment when you rediscover something, or when you find out that it's okay to do it again. It ain't nothing like it. So you don't gotta be in that space anymore of being like, I'm trying. No, you doing. You feel that, oomph, you know? You're doing more than trying out here. You doing out here. So sit with that. Journal about that. Pray about that. Even talk with someone you trust about that. Even God. Start with God. You and God. That conversation. And most of all, be gentle with you. Know what that can be like. Because growing up in survival mode, you're not taught how to be gentle with yourself. It's like once you cross over a baby stage, sometimes it's like now this hard life. Why it gotta be hard? Because there has been so much hardness in this life, and it's like thinking that you're being embraced for it, but it's okay to have some gentleness. Didn't Otis Redding say that? Oh, he said tenderness. He didn't say gentleness. Oh, there I go adding words. Hey, but it's still the same thing. Gentleness, tenderness. I think they're in the same area. Be gentle with yourself. Because returning to yourself is not a race. I can tell you that right now. It is not a race. You will be out of breath. It's a relationship. Let me sing it again. Let me say that one more time. Returning to yourself is not a race. It's a relationship. Ooh. Oh. That's the first time I said that. Cause you hear marathon. Now this is a relationship. We gotta be steady with this. Cause you ain't never had this. You ain't never seen this version of you, so we need to take it steady. I want to thank you for sharing some of your precious time with me. Now, if this conversation found you when it needed to, pass a little sunshine along and share it with somebody else who might need it too. You can continue to follow the journey by visiting kvirtually.com, where you'll find more reflections, resources, even speaking and coaching opportunities, and other ways that we can grow together. And you can also find me on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook by searching K Virtually for even more conversations, encouragement, and of course, a little more sunshine. Now, you ain't got to go home, but you got to get back to you. Until next time, keep that pocket full of sunshine. Take care of you.